Let me tell you about two guys I'll call Kevin and Steve, both 38, both decent investors. Both have been putting money into index funds for years and feel good about it. Kevin has never touched a bond in his life. He thinks bonds are for retirees and grandmothers with conservative portfolios. Boring, low return, not for him. Steve owns bonds, not a lot, but some. And when the stock market dropped 22% in 2022, Kevin's portfolio dropped with it. Steve's dropped less. Steve slept better. Steve did not panic sell at the bottom. Kevin did. Same market, same crash. Different understanding of one financial instrument most people dismiss before they ever learn what it actually does. My name is Nick, and today we are going to talk about bonds. Not because bonds are exciting. They are not. But because if you do not understand how bonds work, you do not fully understand why interest rates move markets, why your mortgage rate changes, why the Fed's decisions affect your retirement account, or why some of the smartest investors alive are holding more bonds right now than they have in 15 years. Bonds are the foundation of how money actually moves in the modern economy, and most people have no idea. Let's fix that. What a bond actually is. Strip away all the financial jargon, and a bond is just a loan. You are the bank. When a company or a government needs to raise money, they have two options. They can sell ownership in themselves, which is a stock, or they can borrow money and promise to pay it back with interest, which is a bond. You buy the bond, they take your money. They pay you a fixed interest rate, called the coupon, at regular intervals, usually every 6 months. At the end of the bond's term, called maturity, they give you your original money back. That is the whole thing. You lend money, you get paid interest. You get your money back at the end. A 10-year U.S. Treasury bond, paying 4.5% means you lend the U.S. government $10,000 today. They pay you $450 a year for 10 years. Then they give you your $10,000 back in 2035. You made $4,500 in interest on a guaranteed basis from the most creditworthy borrower on the planet. Simple, boring, and more important than most people realize. The relationship that changes everything. Here is the part about bonds that most people never learn, and it is the part that makes everything else in finance make sense. Bond prices and interest rates move in opposite directions. Always. This is not a market opinion. It is a mathematical fact. Here is why. Imagine you buy a bond today paying 4%. Tomorrow, new bonds come out paying 6%. Your 4% bond is now worth less than a brand new 6% bond. Nobody wants to buy your old bond at full price when they can get a better rate on a new one. So the price of your bond drops until the yield, the effective interest rate for a new buyer, matches the current market rate. The reverse is also true. If you own a 4% bond and new bonds drop to 2%, your bond becomes extremely valuable. Everyone wants it because it pays more than anything new on the market. So the price of your bond rises. Bond prices go up when interest rates go down. Bond prices go down when interest rates go up. This relationship is the hinge on which the entire financial world swings. Here is why that matters for you, even if you never buy a bond in your life. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, existing bond prices fall. This makes bonds less attractive to hold, which pushes money into other assets, including stocks, which is why rate cuts often boost stock prices. When the Fed raises rates, new bonds pay more, which makes stocks comparatively less attractive, which is why rate hikes often pressure stock valuations downward. Your S&P 500 index fund goes up and down partly because of what is happening in the bond market. You are already affected by bonds whether you own them or not. You just have not been able to see the mechanism clearly. Why smart money is watching bonds right now. The 10-year U.S. Treasury yield is one of the most watched numbers in global finance. Right now in mid-2026, it is sitting around 4.5% to 5%. That is the highest level in roughly 20 years. Here is what that means practically. When risk-free government bonds pay you 4.5% with zero chance of loss, stocks have to offer significantly better expected returns to justify the additional risk of owning them. This is called the equity risk premium. And when bond yields are high, the equity risk premium shrinks, meaning stocks look comparatively less attractive than they do when bonds are paying 1%. This is why Warren Buffett, sitting on $397 billion in cash and short-term treasury bills, is not sweating it. He's getting paid roughly 4.5% risk-free on that cash while he waits for stock valuations to become more attractive. He is not being timid. He is being rational. The bond market is telling him to be patient. And here is the number that should sit with you. The 30-year Treasury yield recently crossed 5%. That means you can lend money to the U.S. government for 30 years and earn 5% annually with essentially zero risk of not getting paid back. The last time yields were this high for this long was before the 2008 financial crisis. Before that, It was the early 2000s. High bond yields are not just a number on a screen. They are gravity. They pull money away from riskier assets. They slow down borrowing. They raise mortgage rates, car loan rates, corporate borrowing costs. Every rate-sensitive decision in the economy gets heavier when bond yields are high. What this means for you. You do not need to become a bond trader, but you need to understand 3 things. First, bonds are not just for retirees. They are for anyone who wants a portion of their portfolio to not move in lockstep with the stock market. In 2022, the S&P 500 dropped 18%. A portfolio with even 20% in short-term bonds dropped significantly less. Less drawdown means less panic selling. Less panic selling means better long-term outcomes. Second, right now bonds are actually paying something. For the last 15 years, bonds paid almost nothing. 0.5%, 1%, not worth the trouble. Today, short-term treasury bonds are paying 4.5 to 5%. That is real money for real safety. Series I savings bonds, TIPS, short-term treasury ETFs like SGOV or BIL. These are not complicated products. They are accessible through any brokerage account in 10 minutes. Third, understanding bonds helps you understand the news. When you hear the Fed raised rates, you now know that means bond prices fell, mortgage rates likely rose, and growth stocks probably got pressured. When you hear yield curve inverted, you now know that means short-term bonds are paying more than long-term bonds, which historically signals economic slowdown ahead. The financial news stops being noise and starts being information you can actually use. Kevin lost money in 2022, not because he made bad stock picks. He lost money because he did not understand that a portfolio with no cushion and no knowledge of how interest rates affect everything has no shock absorber when the market moves against it. He panicked because he did not understand the system. He sold at the bottom because fear is loudest when you do not understand what is happening. Steve did not have all the answers, but he understood enough about bonds to know his portfolio was built to handle a bad year. So he held. So he recovered. So he came out the other side in better shape than Kevin despite facing the identical market. That is what understanding bonds actually buys you, not higher returns necessarily. Clarity, stability, the ability to hold when everyone else is selling because you understand what you own and why you own it. Here is the sentence to take from this video. Bonds are not where money goes to die. Bonds are how you understand why everything else in finance moves the way it does. Hit like and subscribe. Drop in the comments whether you currently hold any bonds, and let me know if you want a full breakdown of which bond products make sense in 2026. Not financial advice, educational only. Your decisions are entirely yours. See you in the next one.